Hey, what's going on? Erik Cortina here. It is so good to see you back. We're gonna clean my barrel today, and we're gonna use these hopefully to look in there so that you guys can see the progress. Okay, that barrel only has about 70 rounds through it. However, when I shot Reveille Peak the first day, I kind of patched. I ran like 5 wet patches through there, and that's it. Patched it dry. So I didn't give it a full cleaning after day 1 in practice. So anyway, we're gonna see how dirty it is. So let me get this thing working and I'll show you what we're doing. All right, so I think I ran a wet patch in here before I left the match because it looks wet in there. I typically do that so that I can patch it out when I get home, but I forgot. But anyway, this barrel has, I'm gonna say about 1,200 rounds through it right now. All right, and you can see immediately in the freeboard area, you can see all the carbon. All that black stuff is carbon, and you can see there's no rifling there. That's the freeboard area. Okay, right here you start to see rifling, and here we go. Okay. See, there's no rifling there, right there, and then it starts. And you can see all that carbon and copper buildup right there. You see all those flakes? That's all carbon. And you can see there's a lot of copper in there. See this one, this is a good example. See how the carbon just sits on top? And you don't see much copper on that one right there. There's hardly any copper, but the next one, you can see it's kind of layered in there. Okay, so the carbon sits on top. Well, it's actually kind of mixed in there, but we got to get that carbon first. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and patch, run some CLR in there. I'm gonna patch it dry first because I think I put some patch out in here. I'm pretty sure I did now that I look at it. But anyway, let's go look deeper in there, see what it looks like. Same situation. Look at all that carbon. This is the bottom of the barrel. Look at that. Ooh, look at this one. Ooh. It's loaded. That skinny one right there, that's the groove, and that's the land right there. Groove, land. You can see this land is picking up quite a bit of carbon. Groove, land, and around we go. Okay, a little deeper in there. Still a lot of carbon. Tons of carbon. Once I get that carbon out of there, you're gonna be able to see the copper. Let me run a wet patch with, a few patches with CLR and see what it looks like. All right, I'm gonna run the first patch just with CLR. And I'm just gonna wet it and run it through. Okay, this one's not bad. Remember, this barrel was already soaked. This is an Ioso brush. All right, I'm gonna run it in there. All right. So what I did before I ran it, I put some CLR right on the brush and pushed it through. And I'm gonna twist it so it engages the rifling, and then I'm gonna pull it back. All right, we're not gonna do much. That's all we're gonna do for now. We're on a wet patch. Right there. You can see there's some chunks of carbon in there. You guys see? Just a little bit. All right, we're just gonna patch it dry. All right, 3 patches. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and just run a patch with alcohol. I have a smaller can somewhere, but right now this is what we're gonna use. Okay, just push it through. And we're just gonna patch a couple of dry ones just to get the alcohol out of there. I wish I could show you guys how much easier this rod is pushing through already. It's drastic. Okay, there. Now we're gonna run the borescope in there again, see what it looks like. We're starting to see through the carbon, right? Let's go a little deeper. There it is. See, I told you once you remove the carbon, you'll start seeing the copper. And there it is, it's like a gold mine. There's still some carbon in there, but this one's still pretty loaded. But anyway, that's what it looks like. So let's recap. 3 wet patches with CLR. You can do more, it doesn't matter. I stroked it 4 times with a brush. I could have went longer, but I did just 4, just to show you guys what I'm doing. And then I patched it out with alcohol, 91%, okay? And now, as you guys can see, there's still a lot of carbon in there, but we got a lot of the copper exposed as well. So I'm gonna come back now with patch out this stuff right here. I'm gonna put a couple of wet patches in there, and then I'm just gonna let it sit overnight. Okay, let it do its thing. Let it sit overnight, and then I'll come back tomorrow, patch it out, and take a look, see what it looks like in there. So if I was doing this as fast as possible, I would actually apply accelerator as well. Accelerator first, then patch out, because that speeds things up. But since I'm gonna leave it overnight, I'm just gonna use the patch out. Put some patch out right there and run it through. Okay, do another one. Okay, see, don't force it back. I'm trying to get the patch to fall out on its own, and if it doesn't, I'll actually walk over there and pull it off. If you don't do that, you have a chance of that patch pushing the rod over and damaging your crown. So don't force it. It needs to fall on its own. I'm gonna do 1 more. I always do 3 minimum. We'll come back in the morning and see what it looks like in there. Depending on what it looks like in there is what you have to do, correct? So if there's a lot more, like right now, there's a lot of carbon in there. If I was trying to get this barrel clean fast, then I would go back with CLR and I would attack that carbon until I saw nothing but copper, okay? But because I'm gonna leave it overnight, I'm just gonna put the patch out in there and go to sleep. So anyway, you have to decide which tool you're gonna use, okay? A lot of people say, well, I do this and then I do that and then I do that. Well, you can't fall into that trap of only having a certain sequence that you always do, okay? You need to know what the tool is used for, and then once you look in there with the borescope, and that's the key right there, right? You can see in there with the borescope, and nowadays there's no reason why you shouldn't have a borescope, okay? I mean, I had a borescope back when I had to pay $1,000 to have a borescope, okay? So now these borescopes, I mean, this thing is super nice. It has a screen, everything, and this thing is like, I think it's slightly over $100. Really, you have no excuse not to have a borescope nowadays, because as you can see, as you're working, you can look in there and see what it needs, okay? So anyway, I'm gonna leave this overnight, and I will see you tomorrow. It's been sitting overnight and half a day already, but anyway, we're gonna patch it out, see what it looks like. All right, so we got quite a bit of blue on this first patch. See that? Of course, it's been sitting overnight. So, but that's why I like doing it this way. You know what I mean? Just get the carbon out first, then do the patch out, and then just leave it overnight or whatever. I'm gonna run another wet patch with patch out. All right, so you see what happened right after I run the wet patch again? We got more blue. All right, now I'm just gonna patch it dry. You can see it's starting to get cleaned up, but there's a lot of copper in there and carbon. Look at that carbon in there. See that? We're starting to expose the copper and the carbon. There's more carbon now than copper. See that? There's some copper there. Let's go a little deeper. Carbon, mainly carbon. See that? See that right there? So, I'm telling you, that carbon is some bad stuff. All right, so now that we looked in there and we know there's mainly carbon, like I said, they layer like this, right? So we took out some carbon last night, then we came back and we did patch out because there was a lot of copper exposed. Now we're back to carbon, okay? So now we're gonna hit it with CLR again, and that shouldn't take long. I'm gonna do maybe 5 to 10 minutes, patch it, maybe brush it, because there's a lot of junk in there. And then we'll take another peek in there, see what it looks like. Put the CLR in there, and just patch it through. I know you guys can't see, but this brush or this patch is already pushing a lot easier than it was yesterday. So I'm going to do another wet one. All right, and be pretty generous with that CLR. Okay, let that patch fall off on its own. If it doesn't, walk around and pull it off. Okay, so that's 2 wet patches with CLR. I'm gonna follow it up with a brush. We're gonna stroke it a few times. Put some CLR on that brush and run it in there. Okay, pull it back through. Let's patch it out and see what it looks like in there. The first patch, I'm going to put some CLR on it, almost act as a lubricant. All right, send it in there. All right, we're getting a little bit on here, not much, but the patch is a little dirty. Okay. Now we're going to follow it up with alcohol, just to get the CLR out of there, whatever's left behind. Then we're just going to patch that dry, just so we can look at it with a borescope. I always patch it dry anyway. So first of all, let's notice that we do not have a carbon ring. That's a good thing, all right? So let's get into the freebore area. Still quite a bit of carbon. Okay, but there's less. See what happened again? We just exposed the copper again. Look at that. So, like I said, this copper and carbon, they just layer one on top of the other. So you have to be aware of that so that you know how to attack it. So as we can see right now, we need to we could probably do another treatment with the carbon cleaner to get more of that carbon out of there. But I mean, you can tell the copper is exposed again. It is my belief that if you do not get the carbon out of there, like right here, that you can't get to the copper. Okay, you have to get to the carbon first. Look at that. seems like deeper in the barrel. See? Then the carbon just kind of takes over right there. So this is copper, copper, copper. Right? There's carbon on here. There it is. There's copper there. Go all the way around. Carbon. All right, so I'm gonna do another treatment with the CLR to get that carbon out of there, and then we're gonna come back and take another look, see what it looks like. I put some CLR in it, and I left it for about 4 hours. I had to go, maybe 5 hours. Anyway, I patched it dry, so now let's see what it looks like. All right, here we go. Look at all that copper again. Okay, carbon. Look at gold mine in here. Look around the scope, around here, on the outside of that circle. You can see it because that's pointing forward. You can see how much copper there is. And this thing is loaded up. But like I was saying, you can see that right here, this carbon right here. You don't really see the copper until you take the carbon out of there. Look at that. So about an inch in from the chamber, that's where it's loaded up pretty bad. And if you go in another 2 inches, then you can see it's mainly carbon. If you're only patching until your patches come out clean, then you see how much is still left in there whenever you think it's completely clean. All right, so what ends up happening is it keeps building and building. So I'm gonna patch it now. I'm gonna leave the I'm gonna put some patch out in here, and I'm gonna go 2 wet patches of patch out, okay? And then I'm gonna leave it overnight again. Remember, we've been at it for a whole day. We started last night, we left it overnight. Then it looked like copper was gone. Then we got rid of some of the carbon. And once we did, then more copper came back. Now what I'm gonna do, like I said, is I'm gonna put 2 patches of patch out. Then I'm gonna let it sit overnight. All right, so I let this barrel sit overnight, and I just patched it out. Let's see what it looks like. So as you guys can tell, there's still copper and carbon in there. But I want to show you something. All right, so I'm going to run a patch through here. Okay. I just want to show you that there's hardly any blue coming out. So a lot of people would think, well, my barrel's clean, I'm done. And this is where a borescope really comes in handy. See, it's perfectly clean, but we know it's not. All right, let me follow it up with a accelerator. And now we're gonna do patch out. I'm gonna set it up for about 5 minutes, and then we'll patch it again. All right, so it's been sitting for about, I'm gonna say about 5 minutes or so. Let's patch it out, see what it looks like. All right, so we're getting blue again. So the accelerator really does work, okay? So I'm gonna patch it one more time. I'm gonna patch it dry, and then we'll take another peek in there, see what it looks like. There's still quite a bit in there. This is right at the chamber, right here. This is an inch in, and that's where it's pretty loaded up. If we go in another inch, it's mainly just carbon, okay? So it's just that 1 inch right here that we have all that copper. But like I said, the rest of the way, you can see there's still carbon. So it's mainly carbon. All right, let me let me do something different. This is KG2. You can also use JB bore paste, IOSO, any of those will do the same thing. Put a patch in there. This is the reason I like this one, because you can simply squirt it on. Just like this. Rotate the patch as you apply. Okay. Okay, then we're gonna go in there. Okay, I'm just gonna work it back and forth right at that first inch. Okay, just short stroke it. I'm gonna increase my strokes a little longer. A little longer. All right. I know it's hard for you guys to see, but I'm advancing my hand slightly as I stroke it. And as I get towards the end, I'm very careful not to pull out and suck it back in, or push out and pull it right back in, because that could damage your crown. All right, and work through. Now, here's a very important announcement for you guys. This is because of the abrasive, okay? This is not carbon. I'm sure some of it is, but if you use JB bore paste, IOS, or any of those, they're gonna turn very black. So don't think you're cleaning it out, or don't think this is from the barrel. This is from the paste, okay? I've seen comments before where somebody was using IOSO, and they said they've been using it for about 2 days and they were still getting a lot of carbon out of the barrel. Don't do that, okay? So I'm gonna do another one, push it right in, and then just kind of work that first inch that we know needs to work. Okay. Again, this is why a borescope is super important. We know that first inch is where it needs the most attention, so that's where we're going to focus, and then we're going to start increasing the length of our strokes. Okay, it's like this. Okay. Okay. Again, be careful not to pull it back in after you're gone, or after it's out. Remove the patch. All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna follow it up with alcohol just to clean that stuff out of there, and then we'll look in there with the borescope again. You're gonna notice that the abrasive actually does wonders, okay? But you can't use it too soon, because then it's just gonna be riding on top of all the carbon and all that. I like to use it here towards the end where we're kind of got most of it out, but there's still a little that needs to come out. So this is the freebore area. You can see starting to look a lot better. We go in. Okay, where are we at? There's that first inch. And you can see a lot of the copper is gone. There's still some in there, but the majority is gone. Okay. Carbon, there's still some in there, but again, the majority is gone. You know, for the main part, this barrel is pretty clean. Of course, we got to go back over here, that first inch. See, we still have some here that we need to get rid of. Right there, right there, right there. So we're getting there. I mean, we're almost there. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put some more accelerator in there with patch out, and I'm gonna go to work. Tonight when I come back, I'll check it again. I'll give you guys an update. Yeah, it takes a while, guys. It takes a while to get it really clean, and this is why you should clean often, okay? Because then you get this buildup, and then you know, you go and you patch it out, and you think, oh, you know, I got it because the patch is coming out clean. That carbon is hard to get out of there, as you guys can see. Anyway, like I said, let me run some accelerator and some patch out, and I'm gonna leave it for another 10 or 12 hours. All right, push it through. There's still some blue in there. Okay, so obviously still not clean 100%. And push another patch through. And like I said, if you guys notice, the first one I pushed dry, the second one I'm gonna apply solvent one more time. Okay, push it through. Again, if it gets stuck like this, reach around and pull it off, okay? Don't try to force it back through. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and patch it dry, and then I'll show you what it looks like with the borescope. Looking a lot cleaner. We're starting to see the fire cracking in the barrel now. Okay, again, this barrel has 1,200 rounds, but this actually looks very good for 1,200. I mean, it just has slight fire cracking, but you know, we still have some little bit of carbon in there. So what I'm going to do now, see, there's still carbon here, there's some copper here, carbon, so still not 100% clean. If we get down there, see, this is pretty clean. This is what I would call clean, and that is about 5 inches, actually 6 inches past the chamber. So that looks really good down there. But over here, it's still pretty dirty. Well, I'm not gonna say pretty dirty. I would say that's actually pretty clean. But for this purpose, I'm trying to get it as clean as possible. What I really like about this borescope is you can see right in the middle, you can see that circle. That's shooting down at 90 degrees. But you can see around the perimeter, you can kind of see the lance and everything. And you can see on this side, it's pretty clean. But as you come around the other side, you can see it's pretty dirty. Just looking around the perimeter. Anyway, let me hit it again with abrasive and see what it looks like. You know, same deal. Focus on the first inch or so and see what it does. This is mainly where the problem is, the first inch or two. Another thing you can do is come over here and put your finger on the end. There I can feel the rod. So it's right here on the back of the stock. So I'm just gonna short stroke it there at the end as well, because some copper oftentimes builds up at the end. Again, you don't want to push the rod all the way through and then try to pull it back. Okay, just don't go past this point. Like this rod, there's a lot of play in this rod. I have a PMA rod for this. See, make sure everything's nice and tight. The problem is this cheek rise on my masterpiece arms. So I need to order the removable one so that I can use that bore guide. In the meantime, because this is a two-piece, can remove the back, then I can fit it. Okay, but if it was any longer, like the PMA is, I have to shoot it straight from the back. So that's why I'm not using it, but I prefer the PMA. This is after abrasive one more time. So there's the freeboard area. You can see, you guys can tell it's looking a lot better. Okay, look at that. Much cleaner. There's some pitting in there, but you know, that's just a 200 round barrel. There's still, see, now you can see down in those cracks, you can see the copper and some carbon. This is on the land. There's got some still there. But I mean, this is a pretty clean barrel. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna actually try some ioso. I think ioso is a little bit more abrasive, so I'm gonna try that. But I mean, this is what I would call a clean barrel at this point. But let's hit it one more time with ioso and see if it makes a difference. Put it on the patch like this, smear it. Okay, all over like this. Okay, then push it through, and we're going to do the exact same thing like we were doing with the KG2. Push it in, start working it right there, that first couple of inches. Just work it back and forth. You saw how white that patch was going in. And this is this is the one I was talking about earlier, that somebody posted online that they've been doing IOSO on their barrel for 2 days or something like that, and they kept getting a lot of carbon out of the barrel. So be careful. I'll show you the patch after I push it through. Remember, this is the end of the barrel right here, so be careful. All right, push it through, and I'll show you the patch. This is what the patch looks like. And that's what the IOSO does. It just turns black. It's not carbon. Okay? Pull it back through. Okay, then I'm gonna patch the IOSO out, just kind of clean it out with alcohol, and then we'll look in there again with a borescope. Again, this is after the IOSO. Here we go. This is the freeboard area. Getting nice and clean. And you can see everything's pretty much gone. Now, like I said, now we can really see the pitting in the barrel. There ain't much, but you can see right here, there's still a lot of, not a lot, but a little bit of copper down in those grooves or those cracks. It ain't much, but there's some in there. Okay? So, I'm not gonna worry about those, okay? But I mean, I'm gonna say this barrel at this point is clean. Now I'm gonna follow it up with Lock East. See, there's a little spot right there that has some buildup, but I'm not gonna worry about it. But anyway, I'm gonna follow it up with Lock East, and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so now we're gonna do some Lock East in there. This is a graphite fluid, and so there's graphite in there, so you put it in and it's supposed to fill in all those cracks or all that pitting in the barrel. Okay, put a ball bearing in there or a bullet or something just to kind of help shake things up. Okay, and it is applied just like your solvent. Okay, I'll show you. Put it in like this, put the patch in, get your Lock Ease, get your patch nice and wet. Okay, and same deal. Remember, the first couple of inches are the most pitted, so that's kind of where you want to concentrate. Okay, and then I'm just going to short stroke it all the way through. As I stroke it, I advanced about a couple of inches and work through. Okay, I'm gonna do probably one more, just to make sure we get it in there. All that carrier is going to evaporate once you do this, and the graphite should be the only thing left behind. Concentrate on the first couple of inches and push it through. I'm gonna let this sit for about 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna get the borescope. We're gonna go in there and look at what it looks like. In the meantime, I'm gonna clean out the chamber. Let me show you how I do that right quick. So I have this Sinclair chamber cleaning rod, and I just put like a 50 caliber nylon brush on it. Okay, put this patch on here like this, push it in there, rotate, pull it back. Okay, see that? All that was in the chamber, so you want to make sure you get all that out of the chamber, or you will have issues. If you fire it the first time, it'll act like if it was a very high pressure load, because that chamber will not grab the brass. The brass will just hammer back against your bolt face. Okay, there it is. Now we're going to go in there with the borescope one last time and see what it looks like now that we're done. Here's the neck. You see that faint black line right there at the junction? That's where your carbon rings tend to develop. Okay, so keep an eye on that. Okay, but anyway, let's go in there and you see how it pretty much looks the same way, except that it kind of has like a black film. You can see there's still some liquid left behind. So I'm gonna patch it with the dry patch again. All right, so now that we're done with the barrel, all that's left to do is clean your bolt really well, inspect it, make sure it's nice and clean, there's nothing wrong with it. And then I just like to lube the back of the lugs. I'll show you that. I use this TM25 grease. Just put some grease on the back of the lugs right here. Okay, right there. Just a little bit, doesn't need much. I'll show you right there, okay? And then you're gonna need some here on this cam, back here. Okay, this is what rides up and down. Every time you open the bolt, this is what resets your spring. When you turn it, when you close the bolt, this thing actually turns and lines up with this, but the trigger is catching it. When you pull the trigger, it releases and it falls down in the groove. Then when you open the bolt, this right here will ride up that ramp and reset. So you need grease right there, okay? And then just a little bit of grease right here from your bolt handle. This is where your primary extraction happens, right here, okay? And then what you're gonna do, you're gonna push it, you're gonna pull your trigger back, you're gonna push it in all the way forward, pressure, hold pressure, and close it. What you're doing there is you're creating a gap. When you push the bolt forward, you're creating a gap between the lugs in the action and the lugs in the bolt, okay? So you create a gap, then when you let go, it comes back and then it puts grease on those surfaces. If you don't push the bolt forward, the bolt comes in, and then when you close it, it just wipes all the grease off the lugs that you just put on, and it ain't gonna do you any good, okay? And just work it back and forth, and you're good to go. After you're done, use some of this on your bolt. This is just going to lubricate it, clean it, everything, all at once. So just apply it like I did here. So then you take a rag and just clean it off like this, and then that's all you need. It'll run like it's on bearings. All right, I know that was a long video, but that's what it takes. I really wanted to show you guys what it looks like inside the barrel after every step. And I hope you can see that you need to be very careful thinking that your barrel is clean, because just when you think it's clean, it's not, okay? So very important to get a borescope. There's really no reason not to have a borescope nowadays. This one is probably my favorite so far, just because it has a screen. And I mean, it works really, really good. Like I said, there's no reason not to have borescopes nowadays, just because, as you saw, they are very valuable. You'll be able to look in there, see what's still left in there, and the main thing is that you know what to attack it with next. For example, we see a lot of carbon. Okay, let's get the carbon out of there. Oh, there's copper. Okay, let's go after the copper. Well, there's still carbon left in there. The carbon cleaner's not getting it. Okay, let's hit it with abrasive. You know what I mean? That way, you don't want to have just a procedure like you do this and then after that you do this, because you don't never know if that's going to work. All right, enough of me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Keep them centered.